Hello lovelies, and welcome to part 2 of my junk journal process. So part 1 was all about designing my papers, getting my signatures together, doing my cover and stitching my journal together. Part 2 is about adding all that extra pretty stuff inside to finish the journal. So this is the second time I've had to do this voiceover. I recorded it, uploaded it, and realised I had uploaded the wrong video, which also meant I had deleted the wrong one, so I have to do my voiceover all over again. And it was such a shame because it was such a good voiceover. So bear with me, I've got to do this all over again. So I'm starting with my cover. I decided to just pretty up the cover a little bit, and just using the heart doily, which went perfectly, and it fit perfectly too. Gluing doilies down is such a pain sometimes, it really is. Especially when I use certain glues, it just sort of sticks to my hands, which then pulls it back up, and yeah, anyway, so very fiddly. But it worked perfectly, and it went really well with this Life Noted sticker from one of the puffy sticker sheets that we got. So it was really pretty. And then I finally was able to use one of the sequin bows. Yay! It went really well with this journal. I mentioned in part 1 that this is a junk journal for my sister. She wanted a journal. She saw me making one day when she came over, and she decided she'd like one too, but she wanted it to be pink. So this is Pink Overload, just for her. So I keep the cover fairly simple and fairly flat, obviously because it's a page, like a book cover, and if it's too bulky, you're not going to be able to write on the left hand side of everything. And then I'm going to dive in and start decorating my pages. Now, this is one of the cut files that I tried to make work, but it was just too big. But I try hard to use it, you will see. This journal doesn't have a lot of embellishing. Well, no, sorry, that's not right. It doesn't have a lot of pockets and tuck spots and little flippy parts in here, because my sister wanted to use it as a journal. So just a journal to write in, not really to store ephemera or tickets or, you know, photos or anything. Pretty much just to journal. So there's lots of white space, lots of pages with lines, just, you know, things like that. So there's not a lot of all the extra stuff that I'd normally put in a junk journal. Like, I think in mine I've got pockets and tuck spots and doilies and flips and all sorts of really cool interactive stuff and lots of different textures. But that's not what I made for her, because she wanted to use it as a journal. So I wanted to keep lots of white space, lots of lines and things like that. But in saying that, as you'll see now, I do throw a few little pockets in there. This happens to be one of my favorites. I absolutely love this card, and it makes the most perfect pocket. I use my 1-inch hole punch to just cut a semicircle out to the top of the card. Just makes it look a little prettier, pretty much. I just like the way it looks. Put some tape on the edges, double-sided tape, stick it in, and you have an instant pocket. How easy is that? So I did throw a few little pockets in here because I couldn't resist. So you will notice as I'm going through, you can see how my desk is an absolute mess. Now this is what happens when I do pretty much any kind of project. The mess just sort of gets bigger and bigger and bigger and just develops on my desk. But in this case of a junk journal, that actually comes in handy, because you will find that I'm picking up random scraps off my desk to make all the interactive elements and things in this journal. Any scraps that I have, I turn them into page flags, you know, little bits and pieces like this, little bits and pieces that I can just pick up off my desk, and they all coordinate because I've used them all to make everything else in this journal. So having the offcuts and things just sitting on my desk make it very easy to match everything up. So as you can see, page flags are one of my favorites, and I'm also using it to cover the staple on that side that I used to make the band on the other side. And it's that simple, yeah, just cut in your fishtail banner and done. So this is a bit of a fail on my part. I wanted to draw some lines in for her to journal on, and I picked up the wrong texter to do it. I knew using a texter it would go through to the second page. What I didn't realise is that it would actually go through to the third page as well, as you will see there. So to just cover that up, all I do is just turn it into a pocket. I put some double-sided adhesive around 3 of the sides, close it up, and you have a full page pocket. It's that simple. I do put full page pockets in some of my other journals. I just hadn't intended to do it in this one, but I knew it was going to go through the page, and I was just going to double back the lines on the other side. I didn't realize it would go through yet again. I do learn though, so for later in the video when I decide to put lines throughout the entire journal, I use a much better pen. So if you've watched any junk journal videos on YouTube or seen any junk journals on the internet, you'll notice that they are as various and as unique as the people making them. There are so many different ways to make a junk journal. Some people use junk mail, which I think is the original authentic version of a junk journal, and yes, I am making quotation marks as I say that. Some people like to use scrapbook paper, some people like to use offcuts, scraps, all sorts of different things. As you can see, most of my paper is the same size. I like the way that looks. I use notebook paper, printer paper, scrapbook paper, and a few sheets of cardstock here and there. Mostly everything's the same size in my journals. But sometimes, as I'm going through, like when I made this, you would have seen in part 1, I found a piece of cardstock that would be a good size, so I threw that in as well. And it makes an extra little smaller flip. Now, there's not a lot of it in this journal, because as I've mentioned, my sister wanted it as just a regular journal, so I didn't do anything too elaborate for her. But I do sneak a few little bits and pieces in, as you will see, like that pink piece of cardstock, and I've thrown a glassine bag on top of it. Not really her style, but I'm sure she'll like it nonetheless. But in the past, when I have made journals, I've added baking paper, which was one of my favorites, vellum, paper bags, all sorts of things to make really cool texture and individual little pockets and all sorts of interactive stuff. So you can make this as various and unique as you like. You can literally use anything to make a junk journal. But as I was saying, the original or authentic version of a junk journal was when people used junk mail and pretty much anything they found laying around. But it has sort of adapted over time to the way people are making them now, or the way I've made mine. So this is my process, the way how I like to make my journals. So it's much more symmetrical, much more neater, I guess you'd say. But still, the concept's still the same. So you will notice that as I'm going through the journal and adding all my extra bits and pieces, wow, look at that mess. See, I had to stop, take a break and clean it up a bit because it was getting overwhelming. But as I'm going through, you'll notice I don't go from cover to cover and that's it. I make my way back and forward throughout the journal. And that's because as I'm going through, I'll pick a few pages, do a few things, realize there's too much of a gap and go back and fill in a few gaps. It's also, in this case, I decide to go back and add lines to some of the pages, add a few borders. As I'm doing it, I'm not adding as many tuck spots or doilies or pockets or envelopes or things, but then I realised because she is using it specifically just to journal, I can also throw on a few little embellishment clusters here and there and jazz up a few of the pages for her because she's just going to be journaling. She's not going to be adding photos or putting her own scrappy touches to it. She's not into paper crafting or anything like that. She just wants a journal. So I thought I can add a few little clusters here and there and make it a little bit prettier for her. So that's what I decided to go back and do. But I've already made my way through the journal once and now I'm going back again and adding extra stuff. So it is a long process for me, this part, because I might lose my ideas or get a bit over it and give it a break and then go back to it and think, oh, this will work. And yeah, so it's a lot of back and forward when I get to this part of putting my journals together. So here I'm going through it for the second time and realizing, well, I'll just put another pocket here, a bit of a paper clip, and then this is where I decide to go through that ephemera and use some of the ephemera to make some really pretty little clusters on the pages. So this Stories of Today piece was perfect, so I literally just glue it down and that pretties up an extra page and gives her plenty of space to write still. So I hope you're enjoying the video so far, and if you haven't seen part 1, by all means go back and check that out if you want to know how I put the journal together to get to this stage. But there will be a real-time flip through of this journal over on my channel, so make sure you go check that out if you're interested in that. But so far, as you can see, it's all about pretty much bits and pieces and sticking them in certain places. You can do it any way you like. This is, you know, the way I do it. I have no rhyme or reason to it. I have nothing planned out. It's all just throw on as you go. So I might see a piece that I like, especially a piece of a scrap, and so, well, that'll make a good banner. And if I haven't put anything on a page in a while, well, then I'll decide to just add it to the page. It's a lot of, you know, back and forth all over the place. But it's a system that works for me. So it's about here that I realised, well, why not throw some extra lines on this page, on these pages? So if you watched part 1, I think I mentioned that, yes, not only did my sister want a pink journal, but her favourite was this, the marble effect in the paper that I have done. And there is a bit of a process in part 1 where I show you how I do that. And I've used my mixed media Kitaholic Kits to design a lot of these papers. So I did a lot of marbling, a lot of packaging technique, a lot of smushing, a lot of pretty much all sorts of media techniques I could think of just to pretty up this paper. And had originally decided to leave them plain because my sister did enjoy those papers the way they were. But I thought there'd be no harm in throwing some lines on there just so she knew that she could journal on it and you could still get the look of that page the way she liked it. So I decided to, it's about here that I start going back through the journal again for I think the 4th time and adding some lines to these random pages. So I'm going through the stickers and the ephemera and just prettying up these pages like I was saying, using some clusters on the pages. It's really great being able to use a kit because everything is all coordinated, and that's what I love. So as you can see, I've got my plate of awesomeness out. If you haven't watched a video of mine before, you might not know that plate up in the top corner is like a party dip tray type thing. It's just got 4 compartments. That's what I use to store all my bits and pieces from my kit. So I've got my ephemera in there and pretty much all the things from the embellishment kit and all the bits and pieces of the greatness that you get in your kits. I use that to store all mine, so it's all within easy access for me. I keep it on my desk when I'm doing a layout with the kits. Keep it on my desk, and then you'll see that I just keep going through and pulling things out that I like. These sticker sheets were probably my absolute most favourite inclusion in this kit. They're such great value and there's so much on there, and as you can see I use them a lot for pretty much every page that I'm working on from now on. They're great for little embellishment clusters, great for little just little additions to pages and things like that. So it worked, one of my favourite parts of the kit for sure. So I'm just going back through, adding bits and pieces here, again going back through the book again, and adding borders and lines and things like that, just to sort of finish these pages off so that they don't look like just plain pages in a book. There are still a lot of just blank pages in there, but you know, I thought if I drew some lines, drew some borders, it just makes it more finished and more presentable, I guess. I don't know the word I'm looking for, but I just like the look of having lines and borders and things on plain pages. So as you can see, there is a lot of repetition in the book. A lot of the elements I use, I repeat multiple times throughout the book. So the embellishment clusters, the pockets, the page tags especially, a lot of the elements that I include them at least more than once, especially in different signatures. So I think I have a pocket in the first signature and I have a pocket in the second signature. I try to repeat those little elements at least once in specific signatures as well. So as you can see, I've gone back to the start of the journal again, and I'm going back through it again, once again, and just adding a few more lines, a few more borders, and again, more of those stickers because they're just really, really cool. So I'm getting to the end of this journal now. I'm just adding the last few borders and few lined pages, just a few more embellishments, and I think I put a glassine bag in there towards the back because there was a white page and it wasn't, I didn't like it. So adding just the last few finishing touches, and that's it. So as I said, it is a long process. From start to finish, it takes me a good few days to do a journal because I never do it all in one go. So I'll do a whole bunch of pages in one go, and then I'll do my book, my cover, and then, you know, I'll put my signatures together, and then I'll decorate the inside. So it does take a little while, and as you can see, even compressed and sped up, it's still a good hour of video here for you to watch to see. Oh no, I've shrunk this video down, so it's about 45 minutes instead. This video was originally half an hour and I shrunk it again. So yeah, it is a long process, but I enjoy doing it. It's a lot of fun, and I even started making beaded charms to go with these too, so I might have to show you one of them in another video. I made a pretty pink one for this journal, which is really cute. So yeah, lots of work goes into these. It's not a quick process, but it is a lot of fun and something I really enjoy. So I hope you have enjoyed the video, and I hope you managed to watch part 1 and part 2. But I will be back next month with some new stuff with the March kit, so I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Bye.